The casserole was hot in my hands, and I held it close, careful not to tilt the pan. I'd wrapped it in that old yellow towel, the one with the faded edges and tiny stitched sunflowers. I always used that towel. My fingers knew the folds by heart. The steam rose up into the cold November air, curling around my chin like a breath I hadn't released yet. I stepped onto their porch and paused. The lights inside glowed gold, and behind the window I saw shapes move. Laughing, passing. Plates, glasses raised. The door opened before I knocked, not for me, but because someone else had just walked in. "Oh, hey!" someone called, toward the other person. No one looked at me. I stepped inside anyway. The scent of sage and sweet potatoes hit me. My arms were full, but my heart, it felt hollow. I shifted the dish slightly. No one turned. No one said, "There. You are!" or "We were waiting on you." I stood there, smiling the way you do when you hope someone will notice. No one did. I was here, but I wasn't. The table sparkled under the overhead light. Wine glasses, cloth napkins folded like little sails, candles flickering gently. Every place had a name card. Not handwritten either, printed, tidy, formal. I scanned each one, Abby, Mark, Caroline, even the neighbor's son. I moved to the side of the table, standing behind the chair where I used to sit, between the mashed potatoes and the stuffing. That had always been my place. Everyone knew it. I used to slice the turkey. I used to pour the first glass of tea. But this time, that chair had someone else's name on it. My hand reached for the chair back, then stopped. I told myself I wasn't counting the chairs, but I was. I counted 12 full places. I let my hand fall to my side, my feet stayed planted, and my name, it was nowhere on the table. I stood by the sink, still holding the dish. The towel had grown damp and warm in my hands. The smell of green beans and garlic was strong now, almost too much. The dishwasher hummed softly. A pie baked in the oven, and I could smell cinnamon and clove. It should have made me feel at home, but instead it made me feel like I'd wandered into someone else's gathering. I shifted the dish to one arm, then back again. Still no one noticed. I wasn't sure where to set it down. I wasn't sure where I belonged in this room anymore. I didn't feel hungry. I didn't feel anything, really. I just wanted someone, anyone, to look over and say, "We saved you a spot," but no one did. Her laugh rang out over the counter, bright and sharp, like it used to be when we baked together on Sunday afternoons. Back when I still helped her tie her apron strings, and she called me for advice about gravy. But now that laugh wasn't meant for me. She leaned in toward someone else, telling a joke I didn't understand, a memory I wasn't part of. They laughed, with her. I watched her face, soft, confident, glowing. I stood still near the hallway wall, my fingers resting on a wooden trim, worn smooth with years. My throat tightened, but I didn't speak. My voice felt like it didn't belong here anymore. It felt like it might break if I tried. So I didn't. In the far corner, almost hidden, sat a metal folding chair. I recognized it. It was the one from the garage, the one we used when there were too many guests. It wobbled when you sat on it. The cushion was flattened. The legs squeaked on the tile. It wasn't part of the set. I stared at it, wondering if it was meant for me, if that was their plan. I wondered if I should just take it, if I should feel grateful to have anything at all. But I didn't sit. My feet ached, but I stayed standing. I had brought food, I had brought history, I had brought love. But I wasn't family here, not anymore. Someone raised a glass. To my family, they said. Others joined in. Plates clinked, forks scraped dishes. Laughter rose again. I was still standing, alone, in the archway between the living room and kitchen. The house looked the same. Pictures on the wall, fireplace glowing. I had helped build this place in ways they'd never understand. Birthday. Balloons, school projects, Sunday casseroles. I had laid the invisible bricks of this family. And yet, here I was, unseen, unspoken. I walked quietly to the counter and placed the casserole down. No announcement, no fanfare. Even my dish had found a place faster than I did. She stood at the counter, apron balled up in her hands, like she wasn't sure if she should wear it. The fabric looked too crisp, too new. No grease spots, no faded corners. "Do you mind helping me with the cornbread?" she asked, barely meeting my eyes. I nodded, trying not to smile too wide. "Of course," I said, stepping toward her. First things first. I took the apron gently, smoothing it out, and walked behind her. I tied the strings slowly, not too tight, the way my mama used to tie mine. My fingers lingered a second, longer than needed. The fabric smelled like detergent and something unfamiliar, not yet ours. She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "I've never made it without the box mix." I let out a small breath. "Well then, we'll do it the right way today." The light through the checkered curtains painted everything in gold. Outside, the trees were losing their last leaves, and the hum of the radio played something soft and familiar. I watched her reach for the bowl with both hands, like it was heavier than it was. Something warm unfolded inside me. Hope, maybe. Maybe she'd let me in more than just the kitchen. She tried to pour the flour slowly, but the bag puffed up with a soft whoosh, sending a white cloud into her face. She blinked, then laughed, wiping at her cheek with the back of her hand, smearing more than she cleared. I laughed too, loud, open, from the belly. The kind of laugh that felt like it hadn't been used in a while. "Oh no," she said, laughing with me. "I look like a ghost." "Well," I said, grinning, "a ghost with good taste." She looked at me, flour still dusted on her chin, and I could see the girl in her, the young woman trying to belong to something older than herself. "We don't measure with cups," I said, scooping the cornmeal with a tea glass. "We measure with memory." "That's terrifying," she joked. "That's tradition," I smiled. Her hands weren't confident yet, but they were steady. She mimicked my motions, hesitated sometimes, but kept going. I watched her knead the batter and thought of my mother's hands doing the same beside me. Maybe it would carry on. Maybe I wouldn't be the last pair of hands in this recipe. The kettle whispered behind us, a soft hiss that filled the space but didn't interrupt it. We moved without talking, her rinsing the spoon, me folding the towel. She placed the butter on the dish just as I opened the drawer for the spreading knife. No instructions, no need. Some people think teaching means explaining everything. But not here, not in this kind of kitchen. Here, the silence did the work. It wasn't awkward. It was rhythm. She wiped crumbs off the counter with slow, focused hands. I dipped my fingers into the flour tin and checked the batter's consistency with a glance. We moved like 2 pages in the same book, flipping at the same time. No words were needed. In that quiet, I felt useful again. I felt like someone whose hands still had purpose. She didn't say thank you. She didn't have to. The silence said it for her. She pulled the oven door open with a breath held in. The scent of hot butter and cornmeal wrapped around us, warm and familiar. She reached in with the mitts and lifted the pan carefully, setting it on the stovetop with a soft clink. I leaned in. The top was golden, crispy at the edges, just the right amount of give in the middle. She stared at it for a moment, then turned to me. "I think I did it," she said, almost in a whisper. I nodded. "You did." The lump in my throat made it hard to say more. I swallowed and blinked once. I saw something in her eyes that stopped me, a mix of pride and longing. I'd seen it before, once, in my own mother when I got the cornbread right for the first time. It wasn't just about food. It never was. It was about something staying alive through us. I never wrote it down. Not because I wanted to keep it secret, but because I believed it didn't need to be written. I thought if she felt it, if she moved through the kitchen enough times with me, it would live inside her hands. That's how I learned. No recipe card, just repetition, just love. A dash of this, a glance at that. The way you know the batter's ready by the way the spoon leans in the bowl. But now I wonder, did she feel it the way I meant it? There are no notes taped to the fridge. No index card in the recipe box, just memory, just steam, just time. And maybe that wasn't enough. Maybe memory fades faster than paper. The oven is off now. The house is quieter than it used to be, and I'm left wondering if the recipe stayed with me after all. I walked into her kitchen on Thanksgiving and smelled it before I saw it. The same sweet crust, the same buttery scent. My cornbread. Or at least the version of it she remembered. It sat in a clean white dish at the center of her table, next to the cranberry and ham. Everyone reached for it. Compliments floated across the room. This is the best one yet. She really nailed it. I stood near the entryway, smiling quietly, nodding when someone looked my way, but no one asked me about the recipe. No one mentioned my name. She didn't say, "I learned this from Grandma." She just served it, and I realized something sharp in that moment, not angry, just hollow. I had taught it. I had stirred it by hand beside her. But now, the story belonged to the bread, not the woman who first told it. I stayed in the corner. My chair remained empty, but my dish? It had a seat. I reached for the drawer, the one with the serving spoons. I didn't even think about it at first. My feet just carried me the way they always had, straight to that smooth wooden handle worn, soft from years of Sunday dinners and holiday meals. But tonight, I paused. My fingers hovered. The hallway was quiet, but not still. The light was dim, casting long shadows across the floor. I could hear the clinking of glasses in the dining room, laughter rising and falling like a song I hadn't heard in a long time. The smell of warm gravy and lemon dish soap lingered in the air. Something about it all made me stop. The drawer I used to open without thinking now felt like a line I wasn't sure I should cross. The house felt different, like it had taken a breath and wasn't sure if it wanted to exhale, and somehow I knew something was about to change. She makes everything about herself. It wasn't said loudly, just a whisper behind a chuckle. But I heard it. I was standing there, spoon in hand, not quite in the kitchen and not quite in the dining room. Somewhere in between. The words slid through the doorway like a draft, catching me right where it hurt most. I froze. "She always does," someone else murmured, barely audible. "Even when she means well." A soft laugh followed. I didn't move. My hand tightened slightly around the spoon. The same spoon I'd used to serve stuffing for years. The same one I'd polished for them just last Christmas. I held it like it might hold me back from sinking. They weren't angry, just casual, just comfortable enough to say it because they didn't think I'd hear. I wanted to tell myself it didn't matter, that I was overreacting. But it did matter. It did. That little sentence cut quick and quiet, like a paper edge. Small, but it stung. I wondered when it had happened, when I became the person they had to work around, when my presence turned into a punchline. I had become the story they told, but only when they thought I couldn't hear. No one looked up. No one shifted in their seat. The laughter continued, unbothered, unbroken. The conversation flowed like water, wrapping right around that sentence as if it had never been said, like it was just another ripple in their holiday rhythm. But me? I flinched, not outwardly, not in a way anyone could see, just inside. Something folded in on itself. I smiled, because that's what you do. A little twitch of the mouth, a nod, as if nothing happened. My hands didn't shake. But my heart did. I remember when my name filled a room, when Mom or Grandma brought people running, when they needed a bandage or couldn't sleep, or wanted one more slice of cake with a side of comfort. Back then, my name meant something. It meant safety. It meant love. Now it's more like a label they've outgrown. Sometimes I hear her when they talk about me. Not Grandma, not Mom, just her. Like I'm a character they all recognize, but none of them really see anymore. I stood there, surrounded by their chatter, but 1,000 miles from the warmth we used to share. I used to be the sun in this house. Now, I'm a shadow stretching out behind them. I looked down at my hand. The spoon was still there. Stainless steel, smooth handle. Same one I'd used 100 times before. But it feels heavier now. Not from weight, but from silence. I stood, there trying to look like I was deciding where to put it, which drawer to open, but I wasn't really thinking about spoons. I was thinking about the hallway. How many times had I walked through it, holding little feet, wiping small tears, humming lullabies into soft hair? Now I stood alone in it, full of noise I wasn't part of. My heart felt quiet, not empty, just full of things I wasn't sure I'd ever say out loud. The hallway smelled faintly of turkey and lavender air spray. I could hear soft footsteps upstairs, probably little ones getting tucked in, and I wondered, would they remember me, or just the cornbread? I didn't feel mad. I just felt tired, like I'd been sitting in a play where my lines had been cut, but no one told me. So I kept showing up, night after night, performing for an audience that had already gone home. I didn't hate them. I wasn't hurt in a way that needed fixing. Just done. I tucked the moment away, deep down inside, where all the other moments like it live. The ones I never shared, the ones I stitched together, and kept for myself. That drawer is full now, and I don't think I'll open it again. I walked into the kitchen barefoot. The tile felt cold, even through my socks, like the house had settled into sleep without me. The fridge hummed in its steady rhythm, the only sound in the stillness. And there it was, my dish, sitting on the counter, clean, air-drying on a towel. No foil, no label, just wiped empty like it had never held anything at all. No one had mentioned it earlier. No one had said, "Thank you for the casserole," or asked how I made it this time. It had been passed around, scraped clean, and forgotten, like me. I stood there, arms wrapped around myself, just staring at the dish. My hands still remembered how warm it was coming out of the oven. How carefully I'd packed it in the car, but now it just sat there, cold, done. I realized something then. Maybe I hadn't been part of the meal. Maybe I was just the dish. I sat at the kitchen nook, right where I always did. The cushion had flattened over the years, but my body still remembered how to settle into it. It used to be our spot, mine and his, morning coffee, evening tea. Sometimes just silence, with the window open and the breeze moving the curtains like they were breathing. But tonight, it was just me. A tea candle flickered low on the table, its light dancing on the walls in quiet spirals. The clock ticked too, loudly, or maybe the room had just gotten quieter with time. I folded my hands in my lap. No mug between them, no fingers reaching across the table to squeeze mine. No one asked what was on my mind, just me and my own breath, soft and shallow. Sometimes being alone is peaceful, but tonight, the chair across from me felt like a closed door. I found my mug near the sink, still sitting where I left it earlier that afternoon, half full, cold now. I picked it up and took a sip anyway. The bitterness hit fast. Not just from the coffee, but from what it meant. I used to warm cups for them, second pours, fresh pots, a sprinkle of cinnamon for the girls. I knew how everyone liked theirs. I'd refill before they even asked. But tonight, no one thought to warm mine. No one even noticed it sitting there. The spoon clinked against the ceramic as I stirred what was left, a soft metallic tap, echoing too loud in a room that had once been full of life. Now, it felt like a memory I was drinking. I used to be the reason they came. The scent of my stuffing brought them through the door. My voice was the one that welcomed them, offered seconds, told stories while dishes were passed around. I was the heart of the table. Now, I'm just the one who drops things off. A helper. An errand on someone's list. The kitchen was spotless, too spotless. Serving trays stacked neatly, counters wiped so clean it felt like nothing had ever happened there. No one asked if I made it home okay. No one checked if I needed help with the cleanup, because I wasn't part of the we anymore. I'd become the person thanked in passing, if at all. The one whose food got eaten but whose face blurred into the background. I hadn't been replaced by a person, just by convenience. The quiet was different now. Not the soft hush that follows a good meal, not the calm that lets you breathe deep and smile in the stillness. This quiet was heavier. It creaked with every tick of the clock. It groaned with the fridge's mechanical breath. It lingered around the candle wick that had finally gone out. I stood at the sink, my fingers brushing a clean glass left on the counter. It caught a sliver of light, but gave nothing back. Outside, the wind tapped dry leaves against the porch railing. That sound used to comfort me. Now, it just made the walls feel thinner. This wasn't peaceful. This was the kind of quiet that reminds you no one asked if you were still in the room. I didn't cry. I sat very still at the table, staring at the eye. Clean counter, the empty chair, the single slice of pie no one had touched. Not even me. The cinnamon smell lingered in the air. Sweet, familiar. But tonight, it didn't feel like comfort. It felt like something had been left behind. Maybe it was me. The candle had burned out completely. The kitchen dipped into shadow. Just the soft hum of appliances and a silence I couldn't fill. I thought gently, not angrily, not even sadly, just gently. Maybe I let them forget me. Maybe I made it too easy to be taken for granted. By always being there, always fixing things, always showing up before they knew they needed me. I stared at that untouched pie and realized I no longer wanted it, but I wanted to be missed. I held my purse close, the foil-wrapped pie tucked gently inside along with the untouched Tupperware. My coat hung loose on my shoulders, not zipped, not buttoned, just resting there like I was already halfway out the door. The hallway was dim, soft shadows stretching along the creaky floorboards. I walked carefully, pressing my steps into the quiet. I didn't want to wake anyone. That would have required a goodbye. I just wanted to leave the way I came, in silence. The smell of cinnamon still clung to my sweater, mixed now with a faint touch of lavender from upstairs. I paused near the stairs and adjusted the strap of my bag. It kept slipping off, and I didn't have the energy to fix it again. I reached for the railing, ready to descend, when something stopped me. It wasn't a sound. Not yet. Just a feeling, like someone behind me had noticed the quiet I was folding myself into. A small tap landed on my arm. Not urgent, not even asking, just a touch. I turned slowly, half expecting nothing, half hoping, and there she was, my granddaughter. Her pajama sleeves hung past her hands, and her hair was tucked behind one ear like she'd done it herself in a sleepy hurry. Her eyes blinked up at me, soft and heavy with sleep, but steady, like she had something important to give. The hallway was dim, the only light coming from the turtle nightlight glowing green behind her. It cast her face in just enough light to see the knowing look. Neither of us spoke right away. She didn't ask where I was going. She didn't need to. Her hand stayed on my arm, like she was holding me in place without really holding anything at all. "Grandma, your stuffing is my favorite." Her voice was scratchy from sleep, but sure. She said it like it was just a fact of the world, like the moon was full, like the stars were out, like it didn't need approval or permission. I felt something soften in me. My hands, still clutching the foil-wrapped pie, suddenly didn't feel so heavy. They relaxed a little. No one else had noticed I was leaving. No one else had remembered what I made. But she did. I looked down at her, unsure of what to say. My throat felt tight again, but in a different way, like something had finally landed after floating too long. "Thank you," I whispered, not because she liked the stuffing, but because she saw me. She reached behind her back and pulled something out, a crayon drawing, folded in half and a little wrinkled. She held it out with both hands. I took it gently, careful not to smudge the colors. There we were, 2 stick figures in aprons, one tall, one small, a mixing bowl between us. Her drawing had a kind of crooked pride to it. The kind that only comes from trying your hardest. Above the taller figure, she'd written Grandma. The letters were uneven, the G too big, the A little backwards. I stared at it for a moment longer than I meant to. My throat was closed, but not hurt this time. It was something warmer, something fuller. She had remembered not just the dish, but the moment. She'd remembered us. I looked down at her picture again, then at the girl standing in front of me, and something inside me stitched itself back together. Not all the way, not perfectly, but enough. That drawing, her little voice, that tap on my arm, they were like patches placed gently on a part of me I didn't know had worn thin. I reached out and tucked a bit of hair behind her ear, just like I used to. "You kept this?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. She nodded. "I wanted you to know," she said, quiet as a whisper. And I did. I didn't need applause or a toast or a seat at the table. I had this hallway. Her voice. That paper. Sometimes legacy doesn't come loud. It comes from the smallest hand, reminding you that you're still here. The Sundays started slipping past quietly. At first, I still circled them on the calendar. Little red rings. Around casseroles I used to bring, stories I used to tell. But no one called. No one asked why I hadn't come. At first, it burned, like touching something too hot and waiting for the blister. But the blister never came, just quiet. Now I fold. Napkins instead of laundry, polished silver I no longer serve with. I listen to the birds outside, far, but still singing. The sun filters through the lace curtains in soft lines, warming the counter where no pies rest anymore. The clock ticks above the stove, steady and slow, but not for me. Sunday is just another day now. It had been years since I touched that old machine. It sat beneath a draped cloth in the corner of the craft room, like a memory waiting to be noticed. One morning, I pulled off the cover, dusted the surface, and ran my hand across it. My fingers remembered more than I thought they would. I threaded it carefully, then pressed the pedal. The hum started slowly, then steady. The fabric moved beneath my hands, and with it, something in me softened. I wasn't making something to be praised. I wasn't filling a request. I was telling a story, the rhythm of the needle, the tug of the thread, the little snip at the end of each seam. It didn't forget me. It didn't need anything from me but presence. And for once, that felt like enough. I laid out the apron gently. The one she wore the first time we baked together, still stained, just a faint oval of batter near the waist and a smudge of chocolate at the hem. I cut carefully, right through the laughter, and folded the square. Then came the old pillowcase from my mother's room, soft from decades of washing. It smelled faintly of cedar and something older, like the hush of a memory you don't want to disturb. Last was a birthday shirt, faded and stretched, but still holding the echo of candlelight. With each cut, I said goodbye. And hello, a part of Me in every piece. Threads of joy and sorrow, wrapped in cotton and time. I didn't stitch for beauty. I stitched a memory. The kind of memory that doesn't hang on walls, but lives in the quiet between people. No one ever saw the little things. I held together, scraped knees, late-night phone calls, forgotten gloves on rainy school mornings. But I remembered them all. That kind of love doesn't announce itself. It tucks itself in, folds itself small. I worked in slow circles, feeding the fabric gently beneath the needle. Every line said what I never did. Every knot was a whisper they never stopped to hear. I wasn't leaving them a quilt. I was leaving them the version of me they didn't notice until it was too late to thank. The apron square? That was the year she asked for help in the kitchen. The floral print? From the dress I wore to every single Christmas. The faded gingham? The one that caught her tears when she fell off the porch swing? I didn't need a signature or a plaque. I just needed one person to see it. I ran my hand across the growing patchwork, breathing in the warmth rising from the lamp beside me. My tea's gone cold, but the peace inside me hasn't. I wouldn't leave this to those who called. Me extra, or too much, or just her. No, this quilt would go to the one who remembered me with crayons, with bedtime whispers, with love that didn't ask for anything back. That's the legacy I wanted to leave, one soft enough to hold. It was thinner than the cards I usually got. No glitter, no thick envelope, no store-bought shine. Just plain white, a little bent at the corners, with my name on the front. The letters wobbled across the paper like they were finding their balance. Grandma, it said. Not Mother, not Ms. Walker. Just Grandma, in a child's careful, unpolished hand. No return address. I turned it over slowly, my fingers brushing against the edge where it hadn't sealed all the way. The dew from the morning still clung to it, softening the corner. It had been sitting on the chipped saucer next to my tea mug, waiting for me.